Alright, what is up, everybody? Hello, this is Generation Z, and I am your host, Russell. In case you hadn't noticed. Yeah, the guy talking is actually the host. That's weird, huh? Speaking of which, a little bit off topic, this show is about technology, of course. But I wanted to bring up something this heinous crime of television I saw last night. Actually, this morning, because it was 12. No, actually, I watched The Tonight Show for the first time ever, really. I have never ever cared about it. I mean, I like Jay Leno, he's funny and stuff, but I just didn't care about The Tonight Show. Well, I delved into the mainstream just a little bit, and I watched the show with Jimmy Fallon. It was funny, man. And I don't even get paid by NBC. I don't get paid by anybody actually. And I gotta say, it's a funny show, man. Like, dang, I was not expecting it to be that good. I've always liked Fallon and everything, but man, I was pleasantly surprised because I thought, oh, he's in the big time now, he's not going to be as funny, but nah, he's still as funny. It's good stuff. I was pleasantly surprised, but anyway, that's not the topic of the show. Obviously, the topic of the show is technology and developments within the technological realm that benefit society and all sorts of neat stuff like that. And one thing that does not benefit society, which we're going to talk about, is Flappy Bird, because it doesn't benefit anybody really. It's a game, but games can be beneficial to society, sure. But Flappy Bird just seems to only exist to frustrate me, but and everybody else for that matter. But we'll get into that in a second. But also, we've already talked about the Australian police doing 3D laser mapping, but there's more to talk about regarding that. Also, if I can find the stupid thing, Kickstarter's been hacked, user IDs have been stolen, passwords too, except not actually. Deputies are charging a Pickens woman 9 years after failing to return a Jennifer Lopez movie. Google has acquired Slick Login for sound-based logins. And Germany and France are working together to keep internet traffic away from the United States. How are they going to manage to do that? I don't know. Artificial graphene could outperform the real thing, according to Gizmag. So first off, though, we're going to talk about the weather. It's what we always talk about first off is the weather. How's the weather doing? Well, it's 52.0 degrees right now. It's actually a nice day today. I went outside. I didn't even really need my jacket. That's how nice it is. Went outside, I was like, man, I don't need my jacket. What a nice day it is. But, yeah, nice day today. But what's the forecast? Well, last night it was raining, you might have noticed. I don't know if it was for you, but where I live down in the great state of Georgia, it was raining. And, well, it was raining kind of hard, actually, but it didn't last, so that's good. The high today, get this, the high today, make sure I'm reading that right, is 67 degrees for the high, 47 for the low. It would be so nice if it got up to 67 degrees today. I would be so happy. But, alas, it's probably not to be because the peak of the sun is quickly approaching. It's 7:03 a.m. today, right now. Today, of course it is today. It's 7:03 a.m. right now. 7:05 according to my watch. 7:04 according to the computer. It's 7 or 11, I should say. It's 11 something right now, and the peak of the sun is approaching quickly at 12 o'clock. So I doubt we're going to see a jump in 10 degrees within that amount of time. In fact, like 14, 15 degrees in that amount of time. There's a 10% chance of precipitation today, and a 20% chance tomorrow on Wednesday, and a 40% chance on Thursday. In fact, there's a chance of thunderstorms. On Friday, a 50% chance of precipitation. Saturday, 10%, and Bloody Sunday, is a 10% chance of precipitation. So, there's a chance that it might possibly precipitate all throughout the week. There's been a chance of it precipitating all throughout the week for the last few weeks, though. In fact, not too long ago, we got a bunch of snow. I actually built the largest snowman I've ever built, by the way, when it snowed. I was totally snowed in. I couldn't come into work. It was just, I didn't like that. I didn't like that part of the snow. But, you make do with what you got, and I built a snowman that was taller than me. I'd never done that before. Because I'm a southern boy from Old Dixie, and I gotta say. It was quite an experience. But anyway, Kickstarter has been hacked, or it was. User data has been stolen, according to CNET, but fear not, because actual passwords were not revealed. So those of you who may have used Kickstarter, don't worry, don't get too flustered, because it's not as bad as it sounds. Hackers hit the crowdfunding site Kickstarter and made off with user information, the site said on Saturday. Though no credit card information was taken, the site said, attackers made off with usernames, email addresses, mailing addresses, phone numbers, and encrypted passwords. So they've got the encrypted part of the password, but they don't have the plain text. And that's the important part of this. The problem is, they have the encrypted part of the password. To obtain the plain text, they would have to decrypt it, obviously, right? To do that, they would need, since they don't have the key for that, they'd have to do some sort of algorithm, algorithmic, that's the word I'm trying to say, decryption thing, which would require a supercomputer, essentially. Good luck getting that. Actual passwords are not revealed, however, it is possible for a malicious person with enough computing power to guess and crack an encrypted password, particularly a weak or obvious one, the site said in a blog post, adding that as a precaution, we strongly recommend that you create a new password for your Kickstarter account and other accounts where you use this password. So this is a good reminder to people. Remember, please have a secure password, a strong password. And I don't even mean like when you try to sign up for Yahoo and it says your password's not strong enough. You have to have 50 uppercase letters and 25 lowercase letters and a number in not sequence counting up to 78 and all that sort of thing. No. I mean, have a special character in your password, have numbers that are not in sequence in your password. Like I see so often, the most common password I have seen over the course of my long tenure in this internet world is password 1234. I kid you not. I know people who have that password. I'm just like, seriously? That's your password? Like, I mean, not even your birthday or something that's a little bit more secure than that. No, it's password 1234. Gotta be kidding me, man. And that was apparently something similar to that. I think it was admin123 was the password for the Associated Press's Twitter account. So go figure. That's how the Syrian Electronic Army got into it. I believe it was the SEA. Why don't you say that's who it was? Anyway, the site said that law enforcement told Kickstarter of the breach on Wednesday night, and that the company immediately closed the security breach and began strengthening security measures throughout the Kickstarter system. The site also said that no credit card data of any kind was accessed by hackers, and that there is no evidence of unauthorized activity of any kind on all but 2 Kickstarter user accounts. So, all but 2 Kickstarter user accounts. I wonder if that would have been going on anyway, hack or not. And still, considering the amount of people who use Kickstarter, the fact that only 2 have had unauthorized access, that's not bad. Not bad at all. You can read additional information about resetting a password at various sources, including CNET, which has an article about that. CNET is, of course, owned by... Who is CNET owned by? NBC, what did you say? I don't know. I think it's AOL is their parent company. Anyway, Kickstarter has added an FAQ to its earlier post, and here it is, if you're wondering. How were the passwords encrypted is the big question. Their reply is that older passwords were uniquely salted and digested with SHA-1 multiple times. More recent passwords are hashed with bcrypt. So that's pretty good. It's not like they can afford to do super encryption NSA level. They're going to talk about that too, but super NSA level encryption. I mean, they do what they can. Does Kickstarter store credit card data? That's a good question there. Kickstarter replies, Kickstarter does not store full credit card numbers. For pledges to projects outside of the U.S., we store the last 4 digits and expiration dates for credit cards. None of this data was in any way accessed. So they only store the last 4 digits and the expiration dates, because the rest of the confirmation goes server-side on the credit card company. So there's no problem there. See, what happens is, the website that you are buying something from, okay, we'll say it's Kickstarter this time, they need to send confirmation to the credit card company that it is in fact you who's making the purchase. How do they do that? Well, they get only the last 4 digits and the expiration date of your credit card number, and they send only that information over to the credit card company, and then they confirm it from there. So it's reasonably secure because anyone who would hack it doesn't have the whole number, so it's secure-ish, we'll say. If Kickstarter was notified Wednesday night, why were people notified on Saturday? They say, we immediately closed the breach and notified everyone as soon as we had thoroughly investigated the situation. So they had to do an investigation first. Will Kickstarter work with the 2 people whose accounts were compromised? They say, yes, we've reached out to them and have secured their accounts. So that problem has been sealed as well. Kickstarter's moving pretty quickly on this, and I gotta applaud them for that. Any site can be hacked. It's just the fact of the matter. Any site at all can be hacked, and really what matters is how you handle it. And I gotta say, Kickstarter is handling it very well. Much better than Target did. I use Facebook to log into Kickstarter. Is my login compromised? That's another good question. No. They say, as a precaution, we reset all Facebook login credentials. All those credentials. Facebook users can simply reconnect when they come to Kickstarter. So that's not a problem either. So they've disconnected all the Facebook accounts that were connected to the Kickstarter servers, so there's no issue there. So Kickstarter has handled their hacking very well. And I gotta say, Kickstarter is very nice. You know, I'm not endorsed by them. I'm not necessarily endorsing them, but I am saying that Kickstarter, they do good work. When it comes to getting money for a particular cause, for a particular game, movie, book, what have you, that you want published, you know what, they do a pretty good job. Kickstarter and crowdfunding, I like the idea. Indiegogo's another one. I'm sure there are others out there. It's a good idea. And I like it a lot. How it works is, give you a short rundown. How it works is, I'll put up a Kickstarter project, we'll say. And my project is, I am going to make a video game. Okay? And if you want that video game to be made, I have a goal of money. Let's say I need, we'll be moderate. I need about $20,000 to get my game up and running. Let's say I need to pay some programmers. I need about $500,000 if I'm going to pay programmers, and I'll need maybe some new computer equipment for modeling, all that sort of thing. So if you want to help me out, you can send that money to Kickstarter, and it goes towards the goal, the end goal, which is $500,000, which means that production could go underway. You'll start seeing proofs of concept. You'll get regular updates and all that sort of thing. It's nice. If it doesn't reach the goal, they don't take the money out of your account. And, you know, problem solved. You didn't lose any money. You only lose money when the project succeeds. So, really, there's not much risk involved. Unless the end product is something you don't like, which is always a possibility, but that's a possibility no matter what, really. So it's a nice system that they have set up there. I like it a lot. Here's a story that has been popping up in the news, actually kind of a lot, but I thought I'd talk about it again, because why not? It's, well, the reason is because I think it's really funny. A Pickens woman in South Carolina, I believe it's South Carolina, yes, South Carolina, she's been charged 9 years after failing to return a Jennifer Lopez movie. Now, she hasn't been charged for 9 years. Let's get that part straight. She's been charged 9 years after the fact. She hasn't actually been sentenced to anything. A Pickens woman has been arrested and charged after deputies said she failed to return a Jennifer Lopez movie that she rented all the way back in 2005. I know people who were born in 2005 who are walking and talking. And at that point, you'd think that not returning a movie wouldn't really matter past that point, but okay. Kayla Michelle Finley, 27, has been charged with failure to return a rented video cassette, according to the Pickens County Sheriff's Office. Wow. According to warrants, Finley rented Monster-in-Law from from Dalton Video, which is no longer in business, in 2005, and the tape was not returned within 72 hours. Now, again, keep in mind, this is a cassette tape. They were probably phasing out cassette tapes in 2005 anyway, right? Because cassette tapes are sort of going out of fashion in 2005. DVD is the thing. It had been since earlier. So they probably wouldn't care that much about the tape. But Apparently they care that much. Finley was sent letters to return the video several times, but she never responded, according to the warrant. It also said a certified warrant was sent to the woman on September 12, 2005. Finley denied ever getting those warnings and said she would fight the charges. Finley was arrested on Thursday after a record check showed the offense. A record check, huh? So I wonder what she did that would warrant a record check. Or maybe it was just a routine record check. I don't know how that works. But I gotta say, man, 9 years after the fact, you get charged with what? Theft, I assume? Not sure what it would be. Grand larceny. Who knows? And, like I was saying, there's probably... I haven't returned library books when I was like 2. So, 15 years ago, I didn't return a library book and they'll charge me with that. Or 3 years ago, I should say. Or, no, not 3 years, gosh. 16 years ago, I didn't return a library book, so that might be 16 years in the slammer for me. I don't know. I mean, come on, people. It's ridiculous. It's like, yeah, I didn't return that video cassette, sorry. And they say, oh, yeah, well, 72 hours, yeah, you're gonna go to jail. I mean, gosh, it's a videotape, who cares? People give out videotapes for free nowadays. It's not really a thing. Anyway, Google has acquired Slick Login, which is a sound-based password alternative, according to TechCrunch. Slick Login has been acquired by Google just 5 months after launching at the TechCrunch Disrupt. Word of the acquisition is confirmed by a notice on the company's site, where they say that they'll be joining Google in their efforts to make the internet safer for everyone. Hooray! We've also confirmed the news with Google. Exact details of the deal are still under wraps. As always, TechCrunch is digging for more. The idea behind Slick Login was, at the very least, quite novel. To verify a user's identity and log them in, a website would play a uniquely generated, nearly silent sound through your computer speakers. An app running on your phone would pick up that sound, analyze it, and send the signal back to the site server, confirming that you are who you say you are, or at least someone who has that person's phone. Yeah. Or to get slightly more wordy, here's how it goes. As a user, you'd go to whatever Slick Login enabled site that you'd like to log into, tap the login button, hold your phone up close to the laptop, and you're in. Slick Login can use a bunch of protocols to start verifying your phone's position: Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, NFC, visual markers like QR codes, and of course, GPS. Their self-dubbed secret sauce, though, is their use of uniquely generated sounds intentionally made inaudible to the human ear. Your computer plays the sound through its speakers, while an app on your smartphone uses the device's built-in microphone to pick up the audio. The service was built to be used either as a password replacement or as a secondary two-factor authentication layer on top of a traditional password. The company rolled their product into a small, closed beta after debuting it at Disrupt, and still hasn't yet opened up to anyone when they were acquired. But the problem lies in, what if you got someone else's phone and tried to log in? If that's the sole method of security on the account. Now, my theory is this. They'll have both, or an option to set up both a text password and the Slick Login. That's what would be the most secure, because you have a written password that is pretty hard to guess. We'll assume, because you're smart and you know how to set up a secure password, secure-ish, and then you log in with Slick Login to double that, and that would have a pretty good security layer right there. That would be pretty decent. So I'm hoping that's what they're doing. And it all reminds me of something that I actually was looking up not too recently. The Phone Losers of America did a thing where they got a guy to say a bunch of words. And the way they got him to say these words was they told him that he had a bunch of overdue library books. And they read him the titles and had him say the titles back to them. So they got a bunch of key words that they needed. They then took those words, and the words were at Bell, my voice is my password. And they then took those words, spliced them together, and logged into his Bell Canada account over the phone for his billing information and all that sort of thing, with the voice samples that they had spliced together. So that just shows you how insecure voice authentication is. If you can just record someone's voice and play it back, it kind of defeats the whole purpose of the thing. And that method is used in movies all the time. Like, consider the Bourne movies, right? In the last Bourne movie, the Bourne Ultimatum, not Bourne Legacy, but the Bourne movie that actually has Jason Bourne in it. The last Bourne movie, Jason Bourne is on the phone with Noah, what's his name? The Deputy Director of Homeland Security. Anyway, he's on the phone with him and he gets this, Noah Bosun, there we go. He gets him to say his name. And, because he answers his phone that way, he goes, Noah Bosun. And he then records that and holds it up to his safe, which has voice authentication, and obtains a sample of his fingerprint too. He plays the sound sample into the safe and presses the fingerprint sample up against the scanner, and he's in. Simple as that. And, you know, there's no such thing as total security. That's what I'm trying to say. That's my whole point in saying all this, is even if you have a fingerprint scanner and a voice scanner, a voice authentication method for your safe or what have you, it's still not completely secure. I hate to say it, but that's just how it is. And actually, I was just reading that if you use that thumbprint scanner enough times, it sort of has your thumbprint embedded into it, just from your skin oils creating that. So what you can do is you can take a flesh-toned rubber hand or what have you, and just press that against the thumbprint scanner, and it'll see the oily residue that you've left over that has your fingerprint on it, and it'll scan that against the flesh tone and think that it's your thumb. I've read of that happening before. So even the most secure security is not that secure, is what I'm saying. You could have DNA scans, voice authentication, thumbprint scanner, optical, retina scans, and you still wouldn't be completely secure. You just don't know. Because, honestly, you could take a brute force method and just break into the safe anyway. It could happen. That's my whole point here. One of my points at Generation Z is that there's no such thing as total security, but you can at least try to make your security a little bit better, right? Because the last thing you want is some little kid getting into your Gmail account because he happens to know what your birthday is. You know, he guessed that much, and he logs into your Gmail account. That's not what you want. And it's happened to me, you know? So you gotta be careful about this stuff. But there's quite a lot to get to today. The traffic is looking good, by the way. Traffic is all clear. Weather is nice. It's currently 52.8 degrees Fahrenheit. And Germany and France are working together to keep internet traffic away from the United States. How are they going to manage to do that? I actually do not know. I'm still pondering about that one. I don't know how they're going to manage. Also, Flappy Bird's gone, and the former second longest Linux distributor, Red Flag Software, has shut down, according to Slashdot. Second largest Linux distributor. Edward Snowden's lawyer claims harassment from Heathrow border agent, according to Slashdot. All that and a whole lot more coming up on Generation Z in just a few minutes, so hang on.
The Man Radio Station.
You do that one more time and I'm going to throw you across the...
Hunting, fishing, NASCAR, Tennessee talk, Southern rock, kickin' country. 1240 The Copperhead. All this month, take advantage of 0% financing or a $1,500 rebate on your new Camry. That's right, $1,500 cash back or 0% financing on a brand new Camry. This is unheard of. All this month, take advantage of 0% financing or a $1,500 rebate on your new Camry. That's right, $1,500 cash back or 0% financing on a brand new Camry. But you have to get the Capital Toyota on Lee Highway. All this month, take advantage of 0% financing or a $1,500 rebate on your new Camry. That's right, $1,500 cash back or 0% financing on a brand new Camry. Capital Toyota is home of the world's classiest mid-priced car, the Camry. Capital is your Lexus and Scion deal. All this month, take advantage of 0% financing or a $1,500 rebate on your new Camry. That's right, $1,500 cash back or 0% financing on a brand new Camry. Capital Toyota on Lee Highway, where the savings are that much better. You're a hard worker.
Your little business is your future. EJ Pelton Company is an accounting and tax service that works to help you keep what you have earned. EJ Pelton keeps current on tax laws and has been helping people like you 37 years. EJ Pelton has an office on Dayton Pike in Sunny Daisy, open all year to serve you. Think ahead, ejpelton.com. Call 332-3339. That's 332-3339. That's ejpelton.com. Think ahead. You love your hometown. Are you interested in free markets, in local economy? Do you hope that Chattanooga can survive the next meltdown, the next chain of disasters in the national economy? What's the best way to live out the ideals of self-government and self-determination? Join me, David Toulis, at Nuganomics.com, weekdays 1 to 3 at 1240 Copperhead AM. Nuganomics.com is the home of love your neighbor, buy local. Great slogan.
You can listen to Copperhead Radio everywhere. On your AM radio at 1240, 910, or 1190. On the net, go to copperhead1240.com. Take Copperhead Radio to listen on the go. On your smartphone, download TuneIn. Then search for Copperhead 1240. Watch the Copperhead live at Ustream.tv. And of course, you can always follow us on Twitter at Copperhead Radio. And like us at Facebook.com/Copperhead1240. So there you go. Whether you're listening on the radio, watching us on television, taking us along with your smartphone, or just socializing on Facebook, make Copperhead Radio part of your daily routine.
Copperhead 1240, Southern Rock, kicking country, Tennessee talk.
The Man Radio Station. Hunting, fishing, NASCAR, Tennessee talk, Southern Rock, kicking country. Copperhead 1240, 1190, and 910 a.m. Picture that curl of steam rising from your fresh baked pizza. And in a flash, let it take you aloft, teasing all your senses. I'm talking about Jet's Pizza. If you eat out of Jet's in Hickson, or take home your steaming deep dish square pizza, you'll love Jet's. They use only the best ingredients in a family recipe. Also try the cheesy bread, wings, chicken. Oh, nearly Eskimo.
Alright, what's up? We're back with Generation Z. I'm your host, Russell. So, Flappy Bird. How about that, right? It's gone, thankfully. It was a pain in the neck when it was here, and it's still a pain in the neck now that it's gone. Oh, it's a game, in case you don't know. It's an iPhone, iPad, Android device game. And it's gone. It's, as the article says, blessedly short-lived. It's a phenomenon, and it appears that Apple and Google are both fighting back. See, companies have started rejecting submissions with the word Flappy in their names, reports TechCrunch citing tweets from developers. Games are being rejected from the Apple Store, with the company saying that they're attempting to leverage a popular app. Google, more obtusely, is rejecting Flappy applications from the store as spam. I wouldn't go that far, but okay. At this time, neither company appears to have removed Flappy Bird clones as that have already been authorized. So any developer that got into the various marketplaces quickly enough now has an advantage over latecomers. As the bandwagon continues to roll on, these games remain popular and appear to be capitalizing on Flappy branding. Top of the iOS free games chart is Splash Fish, the adventure of a flappy tiny birdfish, for example. Frustrating as this may be for app developers, it may nonetheless be a wise move. Just as clone games tend to proliferate in the wake of a smash hit, so too does malware. Google has already removed a number of fake Flappy Bird clones that were in fact malicious. A blanket prohibition on flapping naming is an effective way of nipping the entire problem in the bud. Meanwhile, anyone who still has a hankering for some inane tapping in inexplicable fashions is welcome to try Flappy Dog, bringing together Flappy Bird and the sadly inescapable Dog meme, the two horrible tastes that taste horrible together. Nobody should ever play this game. And the guy says that his high score is 32. Yeah, you can't kill it, man. No matter how hard you try, you just cannot kill Flappy Bird. It's still out there, and it's still something we gotta deal with, man. You know, you got an iPod or an iPhone that is capable of running apps, then most likely you'll run into it at some point, or know someone who has and is posting all the time about it on Facebook. But anyway, Germany and France are working together to keep internet traffic away from the US, according to The Verge. The ongoing revelations about the extent of NSA data collection are causing other countries to tighten up their security and keep their citizens' data private. Germany, in particular, has been talking about keeping its internet traffic and email messages private within the country for some time. And now the country is planning to work with France to help build a network throughout Europe that keeps data away from the United States. According to Reuters, German Chancellor Angela Merkel is planning to discuss a European communication network that'll keep traffic away from the U.S. with French President François Hollande when they meet later this week. So they're going to be proposing that, or they're going to be discussing that anyway. This comes after it was revealed that the NSA had monitored Chancellor Merkel's cell phone communications for more than a decade, something Merkel called a serious breach of trust. Now Merkel wants to enlist other countries in its privacy push. Above all, we'll talk about European providers that offer security for our citizens so that one shouldn't have to send emails and other information across the Atlantic, Merkel said. Rather, one can build up a communications network inside Europe. Well, the problem with that, though, is that they can still read the stuff even if it's in Europe, because there's a line between the United States and Europe. The transatlantic cable. We can still see the stuff. I mean, if they send it in Europe, we can still look at it because it's on a server that's connected to the transatlantic cable. There's no way to escape it, really. Sorry, there just isn't. I don't know how they're planning on stopping that. I mean, I don't get their logic here. It's still connected to the network. You know, the broader global network, it's still connected to it. According to today's report, though, French President Hollande's office is receptive to working with Germany on this front. That's odd, France and Germany working together. France is confirming that it is working with Germany and generally agrees with Germany's ideas. In addition to Germany's work securing its internet traffic, it has also been trying to work with the U.S. on a no-spy agreement, but with no success as of yet. Germany is hardly the only country to respond in this fashion as well. Brazil. Yes, Brazil, the South American country, is also wanting to keep its traffic away from the United States. But some are concerned that increased division of the internet along country borders will go against the very principles that the internet was founded on, which is connectivity. They have a point. But people do have a right to privacy, regardless. And, well, when it comes right down to it, it's hard to pull this off. I don't know how they're going to manage it. We're talking about keeping communications away from the United States. But how? Let's think about it. So there's a cable that goes from us all the way over to Europe, right? We know this. So that means that we're connected to Europe and all the servers that are connected in Europe to the internet. If it's connected to the internet, we can access it. That's just how it is. There's no escaping that. So even if they try to keep their communications inside Europe, we can still access them. It's not hard. That's the same thing goes for the cell towers. If it's there, we can get it. Same goes for satellite phones. If it's there, we can obtain it. I don't know what they're thinking of when they're talking about this. I mean, they'd have to keep some sort of encrypted thing or some sort of network that is not connected to any computer at all, that is connected to the internet, because then that would mean that it could be accessed from the United States. So I don't know. I'm puzzled by this whole thing. I still am. And I've been reading up on it, and I still can't figure out how they're planning to do this. Maybe as more details are released, it'll make sense, but I somehow don't think so. Well, whatever. Maybe we'll be getting back to that in future weeks or days. I just don't know about that one. I will freely admit, I do not know how they're planning on doing that. I have theories, but, my one theory is that they'll have the servers and they'll be encrypted in some way so that you have to sign up for them. And still, though, encryption can be broken with powerful supercomputers, and we happen to have the most powerful supercomputers here in the States to break encryption. So that's not hard. So it's either that or they completely keep it disconnected, which isn't even possible. If they're wanting to keep mail and everything going, it just won't happen. I don't get it. But moving on, artificial graphene could outperform the real thing, according to Gizmag. Graphene is, well, it's pretty amazing. And as Gizmag puts it, graphene is truly a 21st century wonder material, finding use in everything from solar cells to batteries to tiny antennas. Now, however, a group of European research institutes have joined forces to create a graphene knockoff that could be proven to be even more versatile. Conventional graphene takes the form of a 1-atom thick sheet of carbon atoms, linked together in a honeycomb pattern. Along with being transparent and conductive, it is also the world's thinnest material, and the strongest. The official graphene has the same honeycomb structure, or rather artificial graphene, has the same honeycomb structure, but is made from a nanometer thick semiconductor crystals instead of carbon atoms. The chemical makeup, size, and shape of those crystals can be tweaked, essentially customizing or custom tuning the properties of the materials to the desired application. It could conceivably be used in many of the same places in which graphene is currently utilized, but with even better performance. Wow. According to project partner, the University of Luxembourg, artificial graphene could lead to faster, smaller, and lighter electronic and optical devices of all kinds, including higher performance photovoltaic cells, lasers, or LED lighting. Higher performance photovoltaic cells. Of course, they're talking about solar energy. We're using silicon right now, but if we switch over to this artificial graphene, we'll have more efficient solar cells, solar panels. So that's a good thing, right? But also LED lighting. That's also a good thing. But lasers, yeah, that's pretty neat too. If we have laser communication from, say, here to the moon, that means we have light speed communications when it comes to the actual transmission, not the computing of that. That wouldn't be light speed, but the actual transmission would be. That's something I've been thinking about a lot, actually, is laser communications between the moon and the Earth. I was wondering how they would pull that off, because if you're off by 1 millimeter, you've lost it. So, it's interesting. Other institutes helping to develop the material include the Institute for Electronics, Microelectronics, and Nanotechnology in France, the Debier Institute for Nanomaterials Science, and the Institute for Theoretical Physics of the University of Utrecht in the Netherlands, and Germany's Max Planck Institute for the Physics of Complex Systems. A paper on the research was recently published in the journal Physical Review X. So, it's there, it's real. But will it come into common use? That's the question that needs to be asked. Will it come into common use? Well, people are going to be reluctant about moving away from silicon. That's just how it is. That's how the development cycle is going to have to be, is people are going to be reluctant. Now, this can be a good thing and a bad thing. The good thing would be that we would have electronics that we'd all be familiar with, and programmers would be able to program in the same way as they have been for 20 years, 30 years, 40 years even. That's a good thing. But a new material would have to mean new programming languages, as far as I know, because, well, the binary would still be there. I don't know. The assembly would have to be different. I don't know, that's weird. We'd have to start from the ground up with a new material. I mean, it's not like you could take a graphene processor and plug it into an AM3 Plus chip, or AM3 Plus socket rather, and just have it work. I don't think it would work that way. So graphene is a very interesting technology, but it's also one that, well, it's not guaranteed to actually work and be backwards compatible. My theory is this. Because the clock speed is so incredibly high with graphene, it's in the hundreds of gigahertz, my theory is that what they'll do is they'll just run virtual machines of the operating systems and even the graphics cards and CPUs. They'll just run virtual machines of all that, because we'd have clock speeds in the hundreds of gigahertz. That would be entirely possible. So that's my theory as to that. Virtual machines. Instead of actually having the hardware just be the hardware, you know what I mean? They'd have the hardware running virtual hardware. That's my theory regarding that. I don't know if that's what they're going to do, but it could be done, I suppose. I don't know about cooling, though, for graphene. I'm not sure of the temperature at which it's operable, so they say it's room temperature conductivity, which is good, but I wonder how cooling would affect that, and because it's an atom layer thick, how durable would it be to cooling? Would it crack or what? That's all to be seen, I guess, as this technology progresses, as graphene becomes more researched and finally implemented into a real operable computer. Well, we'll just have to see. I believe they have made a graphene processed clock, though. I might be wrong about that, but I'm pretty sure it has been done. But nonetheless, there's a news story here about Paris. Lots of French stuff popping up. Paris has censored a street artist who criticized anti-piracy law, according to Torrent Freak. Well, I thought the Paris flag, the Parisian flag, not Paris, but the French flag, I'm sorry, it has those colors on it, right? It's actually red, white, and blue, but it's in the blue, white, and red order. What does that mean? I'm not sure about I'm not sure about the particular order. Gosh, that came so suddenly. I'm not sure about the particular order, but it's fraternity, equality, and liberty. Now, I'm not sure what's very libertarian about censoring a street artist. There's no liberty involved in that. Well, city workers in Paris have been instructed to remove political messages from street art this week, including several paintings protesting against local anti-piracy law Hadopi. This irony of the situation is that the artist's work is being censored because it criticizes the law that's supposed to protect artists. Well, that is very ironic. See, what happens is, he is an artist, right? Okay, maybe you don't like his art, but he still is an artist. And he paints a picture, a piece of art. And that art is criticizing a law that's supposed to be protecting artists. Seems kind of weird for an artist to be protesting that law, right? Well then, that art is censored. Ever since its introduction, France's three strikes law, Hadopi, has been a steady topic of controversy. The French agency, or rather when the French agency tasked with handling file sharers' copyright violations launched, for example, its own logo was found to be infringing. Wow. This week, another chapter was added to the list when Paris city employees censored the work of a prominent street artist. While the Hadopi office was not directly involved, these censored pieces of art are a protest against the much criticized law. In an attempt to clean up the streets of Paris, 13th District city workers were ordered to remove political statements from art displayed on public walls. Among the targets were several creations by Finnish artist Samsa, who painted dozens of anti-Gaddafi statements across the city. And the actual art, you might be wondering, it's a mosquito. That's the word I'm looking for. It's a mosquito, and it's running after a kid, chasing after a kid, flying after a kid, and it's going to suck his blood basically. And it was removed in its entirety, though. The text was removed, not the actual image, but the text. The text says the blood-sucking Gaddafi, alongside a kid being chased by a giant mosquito. But the text was removed, along with the rest of the mutilating painting remains in place. So the painting is still there, but the text is gone. Mutilated, I should say, not mutilating. Although its original message has been completely lost. Now it's just cool art that has no message to it anymore. The irony of the city's actions is that it has censored an artist who has spoken out against a law that's supposed to protect artists. Needless to say, the move was heavily criticized by many members of the public, and rightly so. Torrent Freak talked to Samsa, who is disappointed that his work was destroyed. Can't use words today. But is also glad for the public support he's received. And honestly, France of all places, this shouldn't be happening. France is all about art, right? They had the Louvre. They have all these classic artists come out of France. They have post-Napoleonic thought, which is all about equality and liberty and all that sort of thing. And what in the world? What's going on? France is censoring art. I could see that happening here too. Let's not have the idea that I'm constantly criticizing France. I'm not. It could happen here too. In fact, it probably has. There's some street art, so-called graffiti, that is criticizing perhaps our own president or some member of government or the government itself, and that gets censored because, well, we can't have dissenting thought here. That might create discussion. Can't have that. I could totally see that happening here. Creating street art is simply a tool for activism. I am glad people in France are upset about what happened in Bout-au-Quai. Bout-au-Quai? I don't know. It's French. I don't speak French. It shows at least someone is paying attention to certain lines that shouldn't be crossed. For Samsa, this is not the first time that his work has been censored. The same thing happened last December when one of his pieces was supposed to go on display at the Museum of Modern Art and Design in Omsk, Siberia. Samsa's painting featured Putin as a dwarf with the text, "Little brother is watching you," a message the United Russia Party took offense to. Despite these setbacks, Samsa is not going to stop. On the contrary, in fact. The French three strikes law is about to be transformed into a system where alleged file sharers will receive automatic fines, something the artist is heavily protesting against. Now it's time to slide the conversation over to the next version of Gaddafi that will almost certainly have a negative effect on the youth, Samsa tells Torrent Freak. File sharing won't be made extinct by fines nor by legislation. The French government can waste another few million euros on... I forgot they used euros, gosh. 4 more million euros on Lescure for his gang, or face the problem head on. Solve file sharing with direct artist funding. Create a model that the rest of the globe can use, he adds. And yeah, it's the label system and the way that artists aren't really paid directly for their work that's kind of a problem. But this problem is being solved with the age of the internet. Remember, artists are always complaining about their labels, unless they're mainstream artists, in which case they just sort of go with it. But artists are complaining about their labels all the time. Now, the fix for that is the internet. It actually is. It used to be that, pressing a record and burning a CD on a mass scale, pressing CDs and printing tapes, it wasn't easy. It's an expensive process. Well, now we have the internet, which, comparatively speaking, is not very expensive at all. I could create an MP3 and sell it on the internet and get the money directly, right? I could make a lot of money doing that if I so chose. There you go. Oh. Knocked over my water bottle. There we go. Smacked it with my hand. I smack things a lot here. Close quarters, man. Some close quarters combat in this station. I'm slapping everything. No, but seriously, I could make money doing that if I was a talented artist. I'm not. I can't sing. I can't play any instrument. Not really good at any of that stuff. But if I were, I could make money that way. assuming that my music is actually good and I'm actually talented, right? So it's not a fringe idea that people make money directly from their music. In fact, that's how it used to be. The label system sort of changed all that. And that could be a good thing or a bad thing, because they do get representation, they do get airplay and all that sort of thing. It's just that, do we really need that anymore with the age of the web? Well, maybe, maybe not. Because on the one hand, the artists do get to go to concerts and what have you. But on the other hand, well, you do get more money, presumably. Or at least you get the money directly. Some artists still just don't care about touring. They just want to put out their music and there you go. You know, they don't want to go through the whole label system or distributing tapes underground to get that done. Nowadays, it's simple to share your stuff. It's dead simple. And you can pay for studio time. Just record your stuff, have it mastered, put it on Bandcamp or what have you, and there you go. You're directly making money. Furthermore, you could launch your own website and have PayPal payments. Just boom, directly to you. And there you go. The money goes directly to you instead of through the label. And that's one method of doing it. And, you know, I'm not going to bash labels all day because there are benefits to having them, of course, for the artists. But, you know what? Hey, you know, that's one method you could go through. But, yeah, the first piece of new anti-Hadapi work pictured will hit the streets tonight, and while he's at it, Samso may restore some of the works the city cleaned up too. So the artist is going to go through and fix the pieces of art that the French government saw fit to censor. So yay. In just a minute, we're going to talk about Europeans, how most of them are downloading and streaming pirated movies. Uh-oh. Doing things illegally. Can't have that. And White Clouds displays its method of 3D printing, or how you can 3D print stuff from their website. Anyway, hold on. Alright, hello. We're back on with the second half of Generation Z. I am, of course, your humble host, Russell. What's up? So this is a show, of course, where we talk about technology and all that good stuff. And I say all that good stuff because sometimes we don't always talk about technology. Sometimes always. Sometimes we don't always. I'm sure that's grammatically incorrect somehow. I just don't feel like figuring it out right now. But what we're going to talk about right now is actually, right now we're going to talk about the weather. Why not? It's 54.7 degrees Fahrenheit right now. It's quickly approaching 55 degrees, which is nice. It's a nice, pleasant, maybe a long sleeve shirt, maybe a t-shirt sort of weather. Not bad out there. Not bad at all. I'm actually pretty happy about the weather, how it's turning out. And it's going to be warm like this throughout the rest of the week, too, according to the forecast. Tomorrow might actually get into the 60s. 65 is the high, 52 is the low. That's pretty good. And Thursday, 67 is the high, 43 is the low. So, again, not bad at all. And Friday, what's that say? 58 is the high, and, wow, 29 is the low. So Friday is going to cool off pretty significantly. There's a chance of rain and thunderstorms and all that. So Thursday, or rather Friday, is looking like the day to not go out. But some of us can't help it. Oh well, we have Saturday to look forward to, which is only partly cloudy. 61's the high, 32 is the low. So it's going to be chilly again on Saturday. Ugh. What is with this weather? It's like we're not even in the south or something. Well, at least it's not going to snow again. Maybe. Anyway, most Europeans download and stream pirated movies, according to Torrent Freak. In fact, nearly 70% of all Europeans download or stream films for free, a new study for the European Commission reveals. The high cost of legal alternatives such as movie tickets and DVDs are the main justification, with release lags and limited availability among the top reasons as well. So, again, the problem is distribution and lack of availability. There's no supply to meet the demand, no legal supply to meet the demand. I mean, if you cannot get a movie legally, why are you surprised when it's obtained illegally? If it simply cannot be obtained legally, why are they so shocked when people go to the torrent method? The European Commission has released a new report on the film viewing habits of Europeans this week. The report, titled A Profile of Current and Future Audiovisual Audience, draws its conclusions based on a survey of 4,608 respondents between the ages of 4 and 50. The ages of 4 and 50? Wow. Scattered across Europe. The participants were taken from a representative sample of 10 different countries, including France, Germany, and the UK. One of the main findings is that up to 97% of all Europeans are film viewers, but that the majority don't pay for the films they watch over the internet. Wow. That's pretty significant. Nearly 70% of Europeans download or stream films for free, whether legally or illegally, the European Commission reports. And there aren't that many movies out there that stream for free legally, let me tell you that. There have been a few on the Pirate Bay, for example, free movies that actually are distributed that way for free. So that's a real thing. But other than that, no. It's pretty uncommon to see a free movie that's legal. The study does not distinguish between legal and illegal downloads, but half of all respondents said they downloaded or streamed films because cinema tickets and DVDs are too expensive. This suggests that the films they watch come from the pirate sources. More than 2/3, or 68% of film viewers, said that they downloaded movies without paying, and half of this group did so on a weekly basis. Streaming free movies is slightly less popular, with 56% of the total, but it's still something half of the population has experience with. So it's not like they're completely ignorant or inexperienced regarding this. Downloading and streaming is most common among Europeans in the 16 to 25 age group. In addition, there is a small difference between men and women, with the former downloading and streaming slightly more. So men do actually download and stream slightly more than women do. One of the main reasons, or rather main questions, is why so many people prefer free copies over paid alternatives. It may come as no surprise that price is an important factor here. No kidding. The chart, which they have over there at Torrent Freak, shows that the price of cinema tickets, video-on-demand services, and DVDs is a key motivation. Half of all people say they prefer free films because the legal alternatives are too expensive. That's where the problem lies. Most people would buy movies if movies weren't so dang expensive. And movie cinema tickets are increasing in price pretty rapidly, actually. So, yeah. In fact, I think it was Woody Allen, who's come under fire too, by the way, has said that pretty soon we'll be seeing $20 movie tickets and all that sort of thing because piracy is such a problem. Well, maybe you wouldn't see such a problem with piracy if you had affordable movie tickets, right? I mean, think about that. The fact that some films are not available yet also plays an important role and is mentioned by 30% of the respondents. The report also offers some further insight into regional differences and in motivations. For example, the high price of legal films is mentioned by only 39% of Romanians, but by 64% of the French. A lack of legal alternatives is often mentioned as a key motivation in Romania, Croatia, and Poland, with around 35% in these countries. In France and UK and Lithuania, availability was at least mentioned with a little over 20%. So France, the UK, and Lithuania apparently don't have much of a problem with availability, it's just price. According to the European Commission, these high download and streaming numbers are no surprise, and it suggests that the film industry itself holds the key to lowering high piracy rates. The study finds that this is not surprising because, while the public takes a lot of interest in films as a whole, the nearest cinema is often some distance from them, and the choice on screen is frequently rather limited, the European Commission writes. So the problem is with supply. There's lots of demand, but no supply. That's kind of the problem. The only supply comes from a so-called illegal source, so that's where they go kind of crazy. It suggests that the European film industry can increase revenues by exploiting different types of profit-making online platforms to increase the availability of films and reach new audiences, the Commission notes. While the report signals some key trends, the movie industry is likely to disagree with the conclusion that it is up to them to make a change. Of course, the problem is not with me, it's with you. Instead, Hollywood is likely to interpret the findings as an affirmation that pirates are cheapskates out to save money, and therefore tougher anti-piracy measures are required. They're completely missing the point, of course. The problem is not with the movie pirates. The problem is with the movie industry that is not supplying, or not supplying at an affordable price. Anyway, like a new movie comes out, you gotta pay $60 for the movie. $60, that means 2 movies is $120. That's a lot of money for 2 movies, right? Who wants to pay that much for 2 films? No thanks. I mean, it's not like it's the deluxe super edition of Blade Runner or anything. It's just, who knows what movie's coming out. I don't even know. I haven't watched a movie in forever. But, yeah. Okay, let's say Ender's Game is $60. And then, what's another movie? Hunger Games Catching Fire is $60 as well. To buy 2 of them, that's $120. Who's going to pay that much? Not me. Of course, I would not be interested in Hunger Games. I did watch Ender's Game, though, yesterday. That was actually a pretty decent movie. It was not... My friend said Ender's Game was a terrible movie. I was like, oh, okay. And I watched it, and it wasn't that bad. So, I don't know. Maybe I have awful taste in movies. Maybe that's my problem the whole time, is that I have terrible taste in movies. Like, Blade Runner is actually an awful movie. And I just have really bad taste. Who knows? It could be possible. Blade Runner is my favorite movie, by the way. But anyway, White Clouds displays its 3D printing and its prowess in that field, according to Geek News Central. For those who can't afford a 3D printer, which with current pricing likely includes the vast majority of us, White Clouds will handle that part for you. Yeah, 3D printer is several $1,000s right now, so not likely that I will be getting one anytime soon. The company stopped by to visit with Todd and Jeffrey during CES in Las Vegas. The rep explained exactly what White Clouds can do for you, which includes using your rough sketches or even getting a description right over the phone. And they have a video which shows you what they do. But depending on what you printed, the price could vary. For instance, an architect looking for a model of a home plan should expect to pay somewhere in the $600 to $2,000 range, depending on size. And you can find out more by visiting whiteclouds.com. But White Clouds is an interesting service, and I'm noticing a lot of these services popping up. I can't name any right now other than White Clouds, but I know there are more because I've seen them. Gosh, there was one just right on the tip of my tongue, and I can't think of it now. But there are different services where you can send them a CAD file, and they'll print it out for you and ship it to you. CAD is computer-assisted design, drafting and design, I think. CADD, but it's a .CAD file, anyway. And I think they'll take .mdl, .model, but whatever. What happens is you send them that file, that computer-generated file that you've made in, say, Blender or 3ds Max or whatever. And they'll take that file and print it on their 3D printer and then ship it to you via UPS or FedEx or USPS, heaven help you, or whatever. Oh man, USPS, I can't stand them. But anyway, I mean, it's like, there's a long story behind why I don't like USPS, but whatever. Yeah, so you can get this 3D printed model shipped to you. And that's a cool thing, and White Clouds is among companies that are doing that. There's quite a few. I'll have to look them up later and give you a list. There's one that has purple in the name. I'm pretty sure it's like Purple Rain or something. White Clouds, Purple Rain, I don't know. But that's what's going on with the 3D printing world, in 3D printing land. And speaking of which, they're sending a 3D printer up to the International Space Station, by the way. Bet you didn't know that. Or you did if you were listening to the show last week. But you know what? Hey, let's rehash. They are actually sending a 3D printer up to the International Space Station for testing and how it works and how efficient it is and all that sort of thing in space. The efficiency of a 3D printer in space. And its usefulness. I think it'd be pretty useful. Because let's consider Apollo 13, right? Apollo 13 was a big problem. Now, not the actual operation itself. If it had gone correctly, Apollo 13 would have been great. But remember, maybe you saw the Tom Hanks movie, which is a really good movie, by the way. The Apollo 13 mission went south pretty fast. I'm a bit of a space buff, so I've been looking into this quite a bit. But Apollo 13 had some problems. An oxygen tank exploded, and there was a filter problem. And essentially, they had a problem where they had square peg, round hole. And that was with their filter system. They had to create, with various household objects or spaceship hold items, whatever, various items that they could find that were expendable to recreate the part that was missing. And that's a problem in space. If something goes wrong, you know, you've only got one of those parts. You can't carry around a whole spare ship with you, right? So what do? Well, they had to improvise. Now, if they had a 3D printer on Apollo 13, it would have gone much smoother, I can guarantee you. Because they could have printed out what they needed, and boom, there you go. No problem. And that's what we need in space, I think, is a 3D printer, because you can fix problems like the ones that they had on Apollo 13. Obviously, the oxygen tank explosion was something that, well, could have been avoided, but they couldn't have foreseen that happening. So that's a problem in and of itself. But fixing the problem, well, it's made just that much easier with 3D printing. I am totally hyped about 3D printing. And actually, I was just seeing this technology, not 3D printing, but 3D imaging, where it's point cloud systems, which is a whole complicated thing. But what happens is they have cameras in an array, and they're looking to implement this at the next Olympics, I'm pretty sure, where they shoot a person doing something, right, with these 10 cameras, high-speed cameras, and then that data is sent to a computer, which sort of aggregates all that data and puts it into one big file, and you have a 3D film now that you can rotate because it creates a 3D model. So I know I'm sort of rambling and maybe not making any sense, but what happens is these 10 cameras take a video of something happening. Let's say it's a pole vault. And then from the different angles, because the cameras are in an array, in a circular array, like the Matrix when they filmed that scene, with Neo doing the bullet dodging. Similar to that. Basically the same as that, except video instead of still. But what happens is they take that video and then they make a 3D model out of it, so you can have a 360-degree view of what just happened. And this is going to revolutionize instant replay. And I was just reading about that on, I'm wanting to say CNET, and it was really interesting. So look into that. It's actually pretty fascinating. They were demonstrating it actually at the 2012 Olympics in London. So it's obviously quite possible. I'm surprised they didn't implement it at the 2014 ones here in Sochi. They're in Sochi, but Winter Olympics aren't quite as fixed in location as Summer Olympics are, because you have a lot of events where it's sort of on one space, like the balance beam. It's sort of just on one space, so you can have cameras arranged around it, but things like speed skating don't really work out for that. But anyway, Linux. The former second largest Linux distributor, Red Flag Software, has been shut down, according to Slashdot. Uh-oh. Now, Cold Fjord writes into Slashdot with news that Red Flag Software, makers of China's Red Hat derivative Red Flag Linux, has halted operations. From the article, once the world's second largest Linux distributor, Red Flag Software has shuttered reportedly due to mismanagement and after owing employees months in unpaid wages. China's state-funded answer to the global software giants like Microsoft filed for liquidation over the weekend and terminated all employee contracts. Set up in late 1999 amid the dot-com boom, Red Flag was touted as an alternative to Windows. It thrived in the early days, inking deals with partners such as Oracle and Dell, which products were certified to support and shipped with Red Flag software. The Beijing-based vendor was primarily funded by the Chinese Academy of Sciences Institute of Software Research, and later received additional funding from state-owned Shanghai New Margin Venture Capital and the Ministry of Information Industries VC arm. A lack of brand awareness and sustained investments, coupled with the rise of rivals including Red Hat Enterprise, Linux, and SUSE Linux, led to its downfall. Eric Peng, Beijing-based research manager with IDC, said, Peng noted that during its heydays, Red Flag had enjoyed high adoption among government agencies, state-owned organizations, and schools. So Linux is not looking so good in China right now. So, oh well. It's kind of a shame, really, because Linux is such a cool thing. I like it a lot. It's an alternative to Windows and Mac OS, of course. OS 10, I suppose it is. Yeah, OS 10. It's still OS 10. That's what I don't get about Apple's naming scheme for their operating systems. They've been OS 10 for the last 12 years, or actually 13 years. I don't get it. Like, you think they would have progressed past 10. I wonder if in like 2015 or so they'll finally say, yeah, we're going to be OS 11 now, or something like that. Now they're like OS 10.15, 10.14. I think it's Snow Lion or Mountain Lion. I don't remember now. I don't follow Macintosh all that much. Yeah, there's some people who don't even know that Mac stands for Macintosh. I ran into a guy like that not too long ago. He's like, yeah, I got my Macintosh. And he's like, you got a what? A Macintosh, a Mac. I'm like, oh. I didn't know it stood for Macintosh. I'm like, of course it does. Apple Macintosh. It's the kind of Apple. Anyway. Edward Snowden's lawyer claims harassment from Heathrow border agent, according to Slashdot. And another reason I like Slashdot.org is because the story was not very well put together on the source website that Slashdot got the story from, and Slashdot aggregated it very nicely. It goes together. It's great. Anyway, Jesselyn Radak, a human rights lawyer representing Edward Snowden, has claimed that she was detained and questioned in a very hostile manner on Saturday by London Heathrow Airport's customs staff. Radak freely disclosed to the border agent that she was going to see members of the Sam Adams Associates group. And then, when she realized that the meeting would be happening at the Ecuadorian embassy, he went down to ask her if Julian Assange would be in attendance, and to ask her about why she had traveled to Russia twice in 3 months and all that sort of thing. Well, the reason being is she's Edward Snowden's lawyer. And this sort of harassment at borders happened to Glenn Greenwald's partner, actually. He was questioned and harassed at the, I'm wanting to say Brazilian border, somewhere, and he was harassed by law enforcement. So really, people associated with our buddy Edward Snowden are not seeing very good treatment by law enforcement. I wonder why. And I posit that Edward Snowden is, of course, a hero and a contributor to the continuous movement of free information and citizens knowing what's going on with this whole government fiasco that we have going on with our NSA spying. And I think it's good that we get to know what's going on. But the government disagrees. They disagree pretty wholeheartedly, actually. But hey, good for them. Sorry guys, but we're going to continue to be reading what Snowden is putting out there. Anyway, graphene nanoribbons could be the savior of Moore's Law. That would be nice. With each new generation of microchips, transistors are being placed closer and closer together. This can only go on so long before there's no more room to improve, or something revolutionary has to come along to change everything. One of the materials that might be the basis of that revolution is none other than graphene. Researchers at the University of California at Berkeley are hot on a trail of a form of so-called nanoribbon graphene that could increase the density of transistors on a computer chip by as much as 10,000 times. Hey, not bad. Graphene has already earned its discoverers a Nobel Prize, but its true promise is only beginning to be realized. Graphene is a sheet of carbon only one layer of atoms thick. This two-dimensional physical configuration gives it some incredible properties, like extreme electrical conductivity at room temperature. Researchers have been working on producing high-quality sheets of the material, but nanoribbons ask more of science than it can currently deliver. And that's the problem. We're stuck here with graphene at our disposal, but nothing to do with it. We can't really do anything with it at our current tech level. That's the sad truth of it. We got to figure out what to do with graphene, how to handle it before we can carry on. Work on nanoribbons over the past decade has revolved around using lasers to carefully sculpt, ribbons 10 to 20 atoms wide from larger sheets of graphene. On the scale of billionths of an inch, that probably sounds incredibly precise. However, even a few carbon atoms can, one way or the other, completely alter the properties of the ribbon, preventing it from working as a semiconductor at room temperature. Berkeley chemist Felix Fischer thinks he might have the solution. Rather than carve ribbons out of larger sheets like some sort of demented microscopic tailor, Fischer is creating the nanoribbons fully formed using a chemical process. Basically, he's working on a new way to produce graphene that happens to be already in the right configuration for nanoribbons. So basically, he creates graphene nanoribbons pre-made instead of having to be cut. So it's the fast food version of nanoribbons, I guess, except it's just as good, which fast food is not. But anyway, more on this in just a few minutes. And also, we're going to talk about Bitcoin exchange in Mt. Gox is finally going to be resuming withdrawals. It's about time. And we're going to talk more about nanoribbons and the progression of technology, and probably 3D printing too. So hang on for all that here on Generation Z.
910 or 1190 on the net. Go to copperhead1240.com. Take Copperhead Radio to listen on the go. On your smartphone, download TuneIn. Then search for Copperhead 1240. Watch the Copperhead live at Ustream.tv. And of course, you can always follow us on Twitter at Copperhead Radio. And like us at Facebook.com/Copperhead1240. So there you go. Whether you're listening on the radio, watching us on television, taking us along with your smartphone, or just socializing on Facebook, make Copperhead Radio a part of your daily routine.
Copperhead 1240, Southern Rock, Kicking Country, Tennessee Talk.
The Man Radio City, Hunting, Fishing, NASCAR, Tennessee Talk, Southern Rock, Country, Copperhead 1240, 1190, and 910 a.m.
Local economy grows by personal relationships and trust. For many years, I've been a happy customer of S&S Auto Repair in East Grand. I take my car to S&S Auto Repair even though I live far off. In sunny days, Steve Smith and his family have always treated me like a neighbor. When I drop my car off at S&S, I get that worrisome call about the extent of my problem. Now, I get the phone and I confidently say, go ahead, keep your car. Maintain your value. That's what I do. S&S specializes in Honda, Acura, Toyota, Scion, Lexus, Nissan, and Infiniti. My name is David Tools. I'm a happy customer of S&S Auto Repair, and you can be one too. Call S&S at 855-3436. That's 855-3436. Online, ssautorepair.net.
Check out some of the greatest deals going on right now. Black Thrill. Inside Infinite Wesley's Corner Store. That's the Allen Elementary. Get your energy drink now. Monster John Coffee, $2 for $5. $2. Starbucks Coffee, $2 for $5. Motel Milk, 2 for $6. That's $2 off.
The largest selection of light coolers, 10 for $12. Yummy!
Mix and match 2 liters worth of Pepsi cards, 3 for $5.
24 packs of natural light, $16.69.
24 packs, $24.99. 6 packs, Slowly Beer, just $8.69.
1 gallon Mayfield milk, just $4.79.
And now slushies are available at Wesley's Corner Store with the best deals in town. Wesley's Corner Store, Dallas, Hollywood, next to Allen Elementary, Sunny Beach. All this month, take advantage of 0% financing or a $1,500 rebate on your new Camry. That's right, $1,500 cash back or 0% financing on a brand new Camry. This is unheard of. All this month, take advantage of 0% financing or a $1,500 rebate on your new Camry. That's right, $1,500 cash back or 0% financing on a brand new Camry. But you have to get the Capital Toyota on Lee Highway. All this month, take advantage of 0% financing or a $1,500 rebate on your new Camry. That's right, $1,500 cash back or 0% financing on a brand new Camry. Capital Toyota is home of the world's classiest mid-price car, the Camry. Capital is your Lexus and Scion deal. All this month, take advantage of 0% financing or a $1,500 rebate on your new Camry. That's right, $1,500 cash back or 0% financing on a brand new Camry. Capital Toyota on Lee Highway with a savings that much better.
Enjoy today.
The Man Radio Station. Hunting, fishing, NASCAR, Tennessee talk, Southern rock, kicking country. California, the Copperhead.
The Copperhead 2040, Southern Rock, Kicking Country, Tennessee Talk.
The Man Radio Station.
Copperhead 1240.
IRC, Internet Relay. It's how hackers talk. They don't want to be overheard.
So pretty primitive. Can you see what they're saying?
They speak. Luckily, I speak lead. Can you screenshot? Got it.
You're listening to Generation Z Swas.
Hello, we're back with Generation Z. I'm your host, Russell. What's up? So, we were talking about technology, of course. What else? And nanoribbons. Graphene nanoribbons, to be precise. There seems to be quite a rush for an alternative to silicon for our processing. You see, silicon is, well, it's okay. It's not bad for what we use it for now, but it can't really keep going much longer according to Moore's law, which is that technology will get twice as small and twice as fast in a period of, I think, 18 months. So, yeah, that can't keep happening with the transistors being close together and such, and it's just, you know, as soon as just be one mass of transistors, it just won't work. Well, graphene nanoribbons is one method because it can conduct at room temperature. There's another one, which is carbon nanotubes, lots of nano stuff, which also conducts pretty quickly, several hundred gigahertz. But it's just not good enough. However, even a few carbon atoms can, one way or the other, completely alter the properties of that ribbon that's being produced, preventing it from working as a semiconductor at room temperature. So it's very volatile. It's, well, it's not reliable yet. We're working on that. Berkeley chemist Felix Fischer thinks he might have the solution. Rather than carve ribbons out of larger sheets like some sort of demented microscopic tailor, Fischer is creating the nanoribbons fully formed using a chemical process. Basically, he's working on a new way to produce graphene that happens to be already in the right configuration for nanoribbons. Fisher begins by synthesizing rings of carbon atoms similar in structure to benzene. Heating these molecules under the right conditions encourages them to bind together in a long chain. A second heating step strips away most of the hydrogen atoms, freeing up the carbon to form bonds in a honeycomb-like structure. Graphene, of course. This process allows Fisher and his colleagues to control where each atom of carbon goes on the final nanoribbon. On the scale Fisher is making them, graphene nanoribbons could be capable of transporting electrons thousands of times faster than a traditional metallic conductor. Transistors built on nanoribbons could also be packed very close together. A human hair is 10,000 times wider than Fisher's nanoribbons. Thus, a chip based on graphene nanoribbons could have a huge number of very fast transistors that dissipate heat more efficiently than metal. If the process is perfected and scaled up, graphene nanoribbons could allow all electronic circuits to be improved dramatically. Everything from CPUs to storage technology could get faster, and Moore's law might have a future after all. And, well, we can hope. A law has to remain constant after all. So, Moore's law needs a future, and this could be it. So faster storage, faster CPUs, faster everything, with graphene nanoribbons. Kind of an odd technology, right? Nanoribbons. It's like some Star Trek stuff going on, but, you know, it's possible. That's the whole point, is that it's possible, and we can keep developing this. Hopefully in the next 5 years, we'll be seeing practical applications of nanoribbons for processing, or maybe a whole new method. It's one of those things where we just don't know. We'll have to wait and see. We just cannot tell what's going to happen, what the future may hold. But regardless, I'm excited to see what happens. And in the long run, that's really all we can do, is sit back and see what happens, unless you're going to be developing. In that case, keep on at it, because we need people like you to be developing this stuff. But Bitcoin exchange Mt. Gox plans to resume withdrawals soon, according to CNET. Troubled Bitcoin exchange Mt. Gox apologized Monday for experiencing, or rather suspending, withdrawals and promised to resume withdrawals soon, and it couldn't be soon enough. The Tokyo-based exchange announced on February 7th that it was suspending all Bitcoin withdrawal requests, citing a glitch in the way currency handles transactions paid out to digital wallets held by third parties. Working with Bitcoin wallet service blockchain.info, Mt. Gox said it had developed a workaround for the transaction malleability. That uses a unique identifier to indicate whether a transaction has been modified. So the point is, Mt. Gox is back, and for how long? I don't know. Actually, they're not back. They're going to be back soon, which is kind of a problem, really, because they need to be back now. But what are you gonna do? With this new system in place, Mt. Gox should be able to resume withdrawals soon. The exchange said in a statement. They have a PDF of that, by the way. At the beginning, we will do so at a moderated pace and with new daily and monthly limits in place to prevent any problems with the new system and to take into account current market conditions. The exchange said it had also added an additional layer of security in the form of a new login system that sends customers an email alert when their accounts have been successfully accessed. So, hooray. Since the suspension of withdrawals, Mt. Gox has maintained that a bug existed in Bitcoin that affected all transactions that should be addressed by the Bitcoin Foundation. The organization that maintains the cryptocurrency, however, the Bitcoin Foundation, encountered that this issue originated with the exchange's wallet service, customer support procedures, and an unpreparedness for transaction malleability. So Mt. Gox just was not prepared enough. They weren't as prepared as they should have been, and that led to a failure of security. Which is a big problem, by the way, failures of security, because you need lots of security when you're dealing with currency, and they just did not have that. And that was a failure of theirs, not of the system of Bitcoin, but a failure of that particular exchange. So that's another thing you got to deal with Bitcoin, is the uncertain nature of the exchange. But you know what? That's something you have to deal with regular currency too. I mean, you think the stock exchange is actually that secure? It's secure, yeah, but is the very nature of it, like, is it Is it all one big Ponzi scheme? Is the US dollar a Ponzi scheme? I mean, it could be. We just don't know. It's a troubling thing, really, when your currency is being thrown around like that. It never makes you feel good, right? It's like, yeah, your currency could be perfectly worthless. It's like, well, thanks. That, I think, is a testament to how good Bitcoin is, though, is that it's worth so much in US dollars. Like, one Bitcoin is, what, $600, $700, $800? I mean, wow. That tells you something right there. It either tells you that Bitcoin is worth a lot or that the US dollar is not worth near enough. But I digress. Despite protests, the USA Freedom Act remains in holding pattern, according to TechCrunch. Coming off a day of global protest, both offline and off, I think they mean online and off, that sent tens of thousands of emails and phone calls into the United States Congress, it appears that the USA Freedom Act hasn't budged on Capitol Hill. Surprise, surprise. Congress doesn't care what the people want. According to The Hill, the bill is stuck fast, despite the recent protests dubbed the Day We Fight Back, that argued in favor of the act. Congress hasn't yet changed its mind in terms of action when it comes to the NSA. Legislators appear to be waiting for the administration to nod its head one direction or the other on the bill. As The Hill's Silicon Valley wrote today, in the House, Judiciary Chairman Bob Goodlatte, or Goodlate, it's spelled like Goodlatte, seems to be waiting for the Obama administration to take a formal position on the USA Freedom Act, authored by Representative James Sissenbrenner, who is a Republican from Wisconsin, before scheduling a markup. Senate Judiciary Committee Chairman Patrick Leahy, hey Mr. Leahy, wants to see that recommendations Attorney General Eric Holder and top intelligence leaders make by a March 28th deadline set by President Obama. So we have a bit of time yet. With both chambers apparently in a holding pattern, it's not clear what immediate impact the protests had. This is, of course, not surprising. Anyone expecting massive and immediate change was hoping for too much. That shows you the nature of our Congress, of course, is that they just do not care what the people want. And yeah, that's kind of a problem. I remember that chilling tweet by that person. I don't remember who, but I can't remember names. I'm terrible with names. But she tweeted at the president that the time is now to act since Congress is in recess. Like, really? If you need a quick primer on the USA Freedom Act, head here. There's a link there. But don't worry too much over the name of the bill. It's rah-rah, but in this case it's not, ironically so. TechCrunch recently spoke to Trevor Tim, the co-creator and the executive director of the Freedom of the Press Foundation on the protests, a conversation during which he noted that at one point the day of protest was kicking 5,000 calls per hour into congressional offices. His take on the potential impact of the prior day's protest. He says, "What impact may the day's protest have? In Tim's view, the effort will perhaps encourage Congress to debate the USA Freedom Act and oppose Senator Feinstein's Visa Improvements Act." I can't stand Feinstein, man. Which in his view would legalize mass surveillance. According to Tim, the USA Freedom Act has the best shot of real reform. But even the best shot of real reform, it seems, is not doing that well. This is our greatest shot at perhaps really reforming the NSA, or even ousting it, and it still isn't doing very well in the House. Why is that? Well, it's because they're all in on it. That's why. They all want this NSA stuff to continue, or at least a majority do, or they're afraid to oppose it. Given the Hill's reporting, I'd warrant that the protests had the warmest of reactions in its simple volume, but that appears to be it. TechCrunch spoke again with Tim, who indicated optimism for change. It's a shame Congress is not moving quicker on an issue that clearly means a lot to millions of Americans across party lines. However, it's not a matter of if, but when. Section 215 of the Patriot Act expires in 2015, so lawmakers are going to have to tackle this issue eventually. And the closer it gets to election season, the more this issue will affect midterm elections. So it's in Congress's best interest to address it sooner rather than later. Immediate change is elusive, but with the continued drip of revelations from the Snowden files, pressure still mounts. Bulk collection is no trivial matter. keep in mind, as Snowden has said, that bulk collection is simple verbiage for mass surveillance, and to contravene other drivel data programs are surveillance efforts. Food for thought, but if you were waiting for a time to speak up, now would do just fine. We're in the waiting moment, but continued noise could help tip the scales. So basically, yet again, Congress is not doing the will of the people. Are we at all surprised? I'm not. I mean, Congress has kind of a long history of doing exactly the opposite of what the people want. I mean, Senator Feinstein, while she's not a representative, she's a senator, she was voted into office, and she seems to be doing exactly the opposite of what needs to happen. Or, in fact, the opposite of the will of the people. Anytime there's any sort of reform, it's either not enough or way too much. And it seems like with the NSA, they were talking about reform bills and all that sort of thing, but when it came right down to it, it reformed absolutely nothing. It moved stuff around. Oh boy. You know, I mean, come on, people. We have this idiotic Congress, man. They're not doing anything they need to be doing, and they're doing things they don't need to be doing. And that's the problem. You have a Congress that does things they don't need to do and doesn't do things they do need to do. They're constantly interfering with our lives. That's a big problem. But they're not doing anything about how they are interfering with our lives. It's just like, come on, people. But what are you going to do? You know, I mean, we can always vote them out, but will it really make a difference? Probably not. Well, anyway, New Zealand is having problems. The police are apologizing for issuing 20,000 notices in error, according to ZDNet. That's a bit of a problem when you issue 20,000 notices in error. What are the notices? Well, it's a temporary computer problem led to thousands of people being accidentally ticketed for traffic offenses that they weren't liable for. Oh boy. That's a big problem. Police says the problem arose when a fault in the police IT system resulted in vehicle data from the New Zealand Transport Agency between October 22nd and December 16th last year not being automatically updated on police systems. So you have this problem where the systems just aren't updated when they really should be. The glitch affected more than 20,000 traffic infringement notices. The affected notices included mainly speed camera infringements and a smaller number of other camera-related notices, including red light offenses, as well as police-issued parking notices. Among those affected were people who sold their vehicles during the 2-month period, who were then incorrectly ticketed for offenses incurred by the new owners or others driving the vehicles. Also affected were those who had changed their address or their surname after getting married. That's a lot of people, by the way. Police sincerely apologize to all of those who have been affected by this one-off technical issue, which has now been resolved, National Road Policing Manager Superintendent Kerry Griffiths said. Of course, this problem could be solved if they simply didn't have traffic cameras, or red light cameras, or anything like that, but that's not going to happen. I can also reassure anyone who has been incorrectly ticketed as a result of our mistake that they won't need to pay the fine, and anyone who has paid in error will be completely refunded. Makes you wonder. Someone could claim that they paid in error and then have their money refunded when they did in fact break the law, but hey, you know, just throwing that out there. The scale of the problem only became clear this week as a result of ongoing investigations, he said. Steps have been taken to ensure that it does not happen again. Well, that's all well and good, but is it true? I mean, they should have taken these steps already, and that's kind of the problem. I mean, it seems like the police, and this is New Zealand, of course, but here too, they just aren't with it when it comes to technology. They just aren't. I don't know what their deal is. See, that's what happens when you have a bunch of old people in charge of you, right? They just aren't with it. It seems to me there should be a cutoff age for Congress, as well as a starting age. Like for president, you know, there's an age where you can run for office, which is 35. It seems like there should be an age where you're just too old, like, you know, 70 or so, or maybe 80. You just can't run for president if you're 80. It's like, sorry, you're too old, you know. Well, it seems like that should be the case, too, with running for congressional office as well. It's like, sorry, you're just too old. You're not with it anymore. We need young people in Congress. That's what we need. All these old people being all old and not being with it. Anyway. And actually, that's what I think is a big deal with piracy, too, because young people don't think it's a really big deal, and old people are all up in arms about it, right? Like in Congress, anyway. So when this new generation of people who are, my age now come into office, and you have this whole problem with, people who think piracy is a huge issue, and suddenly they're in Congress now, and you have this younger generation that does not think that piracy is a huge issue at all, and they come into office, the people who think it is a huge issue are going to have a huge issue with that, right? Because they're going to be saying, well, we need people to be doing something about this piracy, and the lobbyists will be saying all that, and people my age who get into Congress are going to be saying, no, it's not a huge deal. What needs to be done is actually fixing distribution, and that's your responsibility, not ours. But I digress. My position is that older people tend to be the problem in Congress because they just aren't with it. Judges have that problem too. They just do not understand technology. In a lot of cases, this has happened. They just do not understand technology, and they end up actually causing pretty massive problems for people. But hey, that's the name of the game, I guess. You got to deal with this stuff. And when we come into office, we'll fix that, I hope. Our young Generation Z will fix that. Well, Gabe Newell says that Valve isn't tracking your browser history. That's good news. Valve, of course, is the games company. According to The Verge, a report surfaced 2 days ago on Reddit that claimed anti-cheat software used by video game developer Valve was allowing the Half-Life 2 and Steam creator to spy on its users' internet histories. Now, in a statement also issued on Reddit, Valve co-founder Gabe Newell has denied the accusation directly. The original report said that Valve Anti-Cheat, or VAC software, designed to stop the use of hacks and cheats in many games available on Steam, was pulling DNS data from its users' computers before sending it back to Valve, a process that it suggested was designed to allow the company to build a picture of Steam users' browsing habits. Newell, who rarely addresses such conjecture directly, responded to the concerns with a short Q&A. So the accusations or allegations are that Valve is tracking your DNS data when you're using their in-game browser, and Valve says that's simply not true. Here's the Q&A. Question number 1. Do we send your browsing history to Valve? Answer, no. Do we care about what sites you visit? No, they don't. Is Valve using its market success to go evil? No, they are not, according to the marketing director of Valve. Newell also explained the reasoning for VAC's use of DNS data, explaining that as cheats get more advanced, cheat creators for Steam's online games can charge money for their hacks. Many, Newell said, also create DRM and anti-cheat codes for their original hacks designed to ensure a cheater has actually paid for the cheat. These cheats phone home to an external DRM server that confirms a cheater has paid to use the cheat, a process that leaves a telltale trail in the user's DNS entries. If found by Valve Anti-Cheat, then details of the matching DNS entries will be sent to Valve's VAC servers. The details will be checked one final time, and that client will be marked for a future ban. So you'll be banned from use of multiplayer, which is a kind of a big problem for a lot of people. VAC's use of DNS data in this manner apparently continued for a 13-day search for a specific round of cheats, during which 570 cheaters were banned. Not that many considering how many people use the Steam software. The VAC test that checked DNS records for the offending entries is now, according to Newell, no longer active, as hackers have already adapted. They're like the Borg, they're always adapting. Cheat providers have worked around it by manipulating the DNS cache of their customers' client machines. But they're not using it for evil, apparently. They're using it to keep people from cheating in video games. So, using NSA spy methods to keep people from cheating in video games. I guess that's one way of going about it. How's the weather doing right now, by the way? Well, it's actually quite pleasant out. It's 55.7 degrees Fahrenheit. Not bad, right? And 67 is a high. Oh, if only. If only it would get up to 67, but that's not looking like it's going to happen. And the low is 47, which it might get down to during the nighttime, of course. There's a 10% chance of precipitation, but I just don't see that happening. And on Wednesday, 68 is the high, 52 is the low, 20% chance of precipitation. And on Thursday, that's when we're starting to see the thunderstorms coming in. 67 is the high, 43 is the low. Friday, chance of rain, 80% chance of rain on Friday. So Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, I think, is when we're going to be seeing our rain coming in. Traffic again is looking good. There's not really a whole lot going on in terms of traffic. It's all clear everywhere. Some minor slowdowns, but other than that, just stuff you'd expect with the traffic. 153 is looking good, 24 looking good, I-75 north and south looking good. Everything's looking okay today. Today is a good day. And don't forget, by the way, to listen to Nukenomics.com, which is coming up at 1 o'clock here with David Toulis, where he talks about local economy from his free market perspective. Always fun to listen to. That's at 1 o'clock here on this very radio station, Copperhead 1240 AM. That's Nukenomics.com at 1 with David Toulis. That just about wraps things up, though, and in this looking back at our time here on Generation Z, we talked about graphene and microcarbon tube things for fast processing, and Valve anti-cheat using NSA spy techniques to keep people from cheating on video games. Lots of weird stuff going on. Thanks for listening, everybody. We'll see you tomorrow on Generation Z. Have a good day. Hello.
Hey, expect mostly cloudy, mild weather through the afternoon.
How's it going?
See a passing sprinkle, but mainly dry highs.
All right. Sad is
60s.
preparing to
Turning cooler to clearing skies.
leave tomorrow, so
Oh, good.
Breezy and cool day for
he's
Wednesday.
got
Highs only 58
a car.
to 60 with more dry and chilly weather for the rest of the week.
He took
Check
care of
out
himself a
Bridgestone.
car.
Every day is full of air and van adventures. That's why
To me.
Bridgestone engineers
Oh,
tires to perform
I'm
their
the
best
investor.
when it matters most. That's Bridgestone. Your journey, our passion. And on WDEF News Call Sheet Meteorology.
Well, it's venture capital.
Yeah, that's eventually, that's it.
The man
To make money, you have to have money.
I spend money to make money.
Sonic Fisher NASCAR.
So he's gonna be back, Lord willing, tomorrow. He says he'll be leaving about 8 in the morning, if things go right. And then he'll be here in the early afternoon.
It's a good time to be leaving. Traffic is good.
I'm not sure about Atlanta though.
No, Atlanta's never good.
WSDQ Dunlap, WEPG South Pittsburgh, the Copperhead, WSDG Sunny Daisy, Chattanooga.